The Architecture of Power and Precision, an original book presented by Voxstories audiobook creation platform. Introduction. Power is often misunderstood. Many chase it as if it were a prize to be seized, a symbol of dominance or control over others. Yet true power is rarely loud. It moves with intention, clarity, and purpose. It is architecture, not accident. Precision, its silent counterpart, is the craft that gives power its form. Without precision, power is scattered and wasteful. Without power, precision is sterile and inert. Together, they form the twin pillars upon which mastery is built. Every human interaction, every decision, every habit is an expression of architecture, the deliberate construction of outcomes. Most people build unconsciously, stacking impulsive choices and vague desires into unstable structures that crumble under pressure. Others operate with meticulous clarity, designing their thoughts and actions like an architect drafts a blueprint. The difference between the two is not luck or talent. It is awareness, discipline, and the ability to see life as a system to be engineered rather than endured. This book is your blueprint. It is not a collection of motivational slogans or empty affirmations. It is a manual for those who wish to operate with precision in a world addicted to noise. It will teach you to see patterns where others see chaos, to act with intention where others react with emotion, and to cultivate influence not through force, but through clarity of thought and mastery of self. You will learn that power begins internally with self-command, not command over others. You will see how precision refines that power into focused energy, capable of reshaping not only your own life, but the environment around you. Each chapter will guide you through the structures of mastery, the mindset that frames your world, the discipline that anchors your actions, the communication that shapes perception, and the resilience that sustains your growth. But this journey demands honesty. It will expose the illusions that keep you weak, the myths of talent, luck, and instant success. It will challenge your assumptions about control, influence, and leadership. It will ask you to become the architect of your own evolution, to design yourself as deliberately as you design your goals. Power and precision are not gifts, they are crafts. They must be studied, practiced, and refined. They require patience, awareness, and the courage to dismantle what is ineffective in order to rebuild with strength. Those who master them move through life like engineers of fate, calm, deliberate, unshaken by circumstance. You are about to learn how to build that architecture within yourself. The foundation awaits your first deliberate stroke. Chapter 1. Foundations of Power and Precision. Power begins as an invisible current felt before it is seen, understood before it is displayed. It is not the loud assertion of dominance, nor the frantic grasping for control, but the quiet possession of one's own center. True power is influence over the inevitable, the ability to shape outcomes without forcing them. It lives in the mind, in the way you interpret events, in the discipline that directs your actions. Before it ever appears in the external world, it exists internally as self-mastery. Precision is the instrument through which this current becomes effective. Without precision, power disperses like water poured onto sand, its potential wasted. Precision gives power form, channeling it toward a singular purpose. It is clarity stripped of excess, accuracy that leaves no room for misinterpretation. Where power determines whether something can be done, precision determines how it will be done and with what impact. Together, power and precision create a force that is far greater than either could achieve alone. Power without precision becomes reckless. Precision without power becomes impotent. When they converge, you move with deliberate intent, each choice calculated, each action aligned with a larger architecture of purpose. This union is not accidental. It is cultivated through awareness and discipline. To understand power in its purest form, you must first reject the myths that surround it. Power is not bestowed by title, wealth, or circumstance. It is earned through command over yourself. It is the refusal to be swayed by impulse or manipulated by distraction. It is the patience to wait for the right moment and the courage to act when it arrives. You cannot possess external power for long without first mastering internal power. The unstable collapse quickly under the weight of influence. Precision demands an equally rigorous commitment. It requires that you strip away vagueness in thought and execution. You must learn to measure twice before cutting once, not out of hesitation, but out of respect for the consequences of your actions. Precision thrives on observation and refinement, seeing patterns others overlook, correcting errors before they grow, and choosing words or movements with exact purpose. The foundation of both begins with awareness. You must see yourself as an architect sees a blueprint, every line deliberate, every structure serving a function. In this mindset, decisions are not isolated events, but interconnected beams in the larger frame of your life. Communication becomes a tool for construction rather than reaction. Goals transform from abstract wishes into measurable structures built on strong supports. This is not a path for the complacent. It demands that you confront your own inefficiencies and dismantle them piece by piece. It calls for ruthless honesty about where your power leaks away through fear, indecision, or wasted effort, and where your precision blurs into carelessness. Every weakness you ignore becomes a crack in the foundation. Every strength you sharpen becomes a pillar that supports greater heights. The synergy between power and precision will redefine how you approach every element of your existence. Once you grasp their interplay, you will stop chasing control and start engineering it. You will cease reacting to life and begin orchestrating it. And, as your foundation solidifies, you will find that mastery does not shout, it stands firm, unshaken, and unmistakable. Chapter 2. The Mindset Architecture. Your mind is the blueprint from which all action flows. Before any structure can rise, before any plan can be executed, the architecture of thought must be deliberate and strong. Every belief you hold, every assumption you make, shapes the frame through which you view the world. If that frame is distorted, no amount of skill or effort will produce consistent results. To wield power with precision, you must first ensure that your mental architecture is aligned with reality and your ultimate vision. Most people live within structures they did not consciously design. Inherited beliefs from family, culture, and past experiences form the unseen scaffolding of their decisions. These mental structures often contain cracks, limiting beliefs that dictate what is possible, ceilings that cap ambition long before potential is reached. The first act of a true architect of self is demolition, the ruthless identification and removal of beliefs that weaken the foundation. This is not an act of destruction for its own sake, but a clearing of space for stronger frameworks to rise. Limiting beliefs are rarely obvious. They hide behind rationalizations and disguised fears. I'm not ready yet. That's just how things are. Success like that is for other people. To dismantle them, you must treat each thought as an object to be examined, asking whether it serves your long-term vision or undermines it. Every belief should be tested against evidence, challenged by new perspectives, and refined until it supports rather than sabotages. Once the debris is cleared, construction begins. A growth-oriented mindset is the steel and stone of this architecture. It is built on the conviction that abilities can be developed, that challenges are opportunities for refinement rather than threats to stability. This mindset transforms obstacles into design problems, issues to be solved rather than reasons to quit. It replaces the fragility of fixed thinking with the resilience of continuous adaptation. Your values are the load-bearing walls. Without them, the structure collapses under pressure or sways with every passing trend. Values anchor your decisions, ensuring that power is exercised with consistency and precision. They act as coordinates in the blueprint, aligning your actions with your long-term vision even when immediate circumstances tempt you to deviate. When values are clear, decisions become easier. When they are vague, every choice becomes a negotiation with chaos. The vision itself is the master plan, the completed design you are working toward. But a vision without alignment and discipline is nothing more than an artist's sketch left unfinished. To make it real, every mental structure must support it. Beliefs that reinforce possibility, attitudes that embrace growth, values that hold form under stress. Your mindset must be engineered so that even in uncertainty, your internal framework remains intact and functional. Precision in thought is not achieved by accident. It is cultivated through deliberate mental habits. Observe your own reasoning as a craftsman studies his tools sharpening where dullness appears, replacing what no longer serves. Guard your mental architecture against erosion by surrounding yourself with information and environments that strengthen rather than weaken your resolve. Each moment of awareness is a reinforcement beam added to your internal structure. When your mindset is architected with intention, power becomes a natural consequence. You will move through life with clarity, executing decisions with accuracy because every internal component supports them. The world may shift around you, markets change, people falter, circumstances evolve, but your mental architecture will hold steady. And from that stability, you will build structures in the external world that are as deliberate and enduring as the mind from which they originate. Chapter 3. Strategic Self-Mastery. Power without self-mastery is volatile. It surges and collapses with emotion, chasing impulse rather than strategy. Precision without self-command is sterile, forever planning yet never executing. To achieve strategic self-mastery is to merge both into directed force to become the calm operator who acts with intent while others react in chaos. It is the discipline of mastering yourself as if you were the most complex system you will ever engineer. Every human being is governed by internal forces: emotion, habit, desire, and thought. Most live as subjects to these forces, unaware that their reactions are programmed responses rather than deliberate choices. Anger dictates speech, fear dictates avoidance, comfort dictates stagnation. Strategic self-mastery begins when you recognize these forces not as enemies, but as raw energy awaiting command. The goal is not suppression, but orchestration, each emotion and instinct assigned its proper function within the architecture of your purpose. Emotional regulation is the cornerstone of this mastery. Emotions are signals, not commands. They reveal where your values have been challenged or your ego has been threatened. But when left unchecked, they distort perception and sabotage precision. The strategist does not deny emotion. They observe it, trace its origin, and decide its utility. Anger can become fuel for courage. Fear can sharpen awareness. Excitement can be harnessed into momentum. The key is to insert consciousness between stimulus and response, to pause long enough to convert reaction into strategy. This pause is the domain of awareness. Awareness is not passive, it is active surveillance of the self. It is the internal watchtower from which you monitor your impulses, your tone, your decisions, and the subtle shifts in your own energy. Through awareness, you begin to see the patterns that govern your behavior, the triggers that hijack your discipline, the habits that drain your willpower, the routines that either strengthen or weaken your resolve. Once seen, these patterns cannot hide, and once revealed, they can be redesigned. Habits are the architecture of your daily power. They determine whether your energy compounds or dissipates. Every habit is a mechanism, automatic, efficient, and often invisible. To master yourself strategically, you must become the architect of these mechanisms. Identify which habits serve your larger blueprint and which erode it. Replace those that weaken you with rituals that reinforce clarity, focus, and strength. The smallest consistent actions, executed with precision, yield exponential results over time. The disciplined repetition of deliberate habits transforms self-mastery from theory into instinct. Discipline itself is not punishment, it is design. It is the conscious choice to align behavior with purpose, even when emotion resists. Those who mistake discipline for rigidity misunderstand its essence. True discipline is flexibility. With direction, it adapts to circumstance without losing alignment. It is the ability to act correctly under pressure, to maintain the integrity of your principles when convenience tempts you to abandon them. Discipline refines power into reliability, ensuring that your actions remain consistent with your intentions. Strategic self-mastery also demands negotiation between short-term desires and long-term outcomes. The self seeks comfort, recognition, and pleasure, all temporary rewards that often conflict with enduring success. The strategist understands that mastery requires delayed gratification, the ability to sacrifice the immediate for the inevitable. Every time you choose structure over impulse, focus over distraction, you strengthen the architecture of your will. Over time, that will becomes unbreakable, a fortress from which no external circumstance can dislodge you. But mastery is not achieved through suppression alone. It thrives through intelligent self-alignment. You must understand your own nature, the rhythms of your energy, the conditions under which you perform best, the environments that either elevate or diminish your focus. To command yourself effectively, you must study yourself as a scientist studies data. When you know your tendencies, you can design systems that anticipate weakness and magnify strength. This is the essence of strategic living, to shape your internal architecture so that success becomes the natural outcome of your design, not the product of constant struggle. Self-mastery is not isolation from emotion or desire. It is dominion over them. A master does not eliminate fear. He uses it as a compass pointing toward growth. He does not erase doubt, he refines it into inquiry. He does not silence ambition, he disciplines it into purpose. Every aspect of the self becomes a tool once understood. The undisciplined self is fragmented, pulled in opposing directions. The mastered self is unified, every thought and action converging toward a single deliberate aim. To live strategically is to see life as a series of controlled experiments. Each moment is an opportunity to test your discipline, to refine your systems, to strengthen your internal architecture. Mistakes are data, not failures. Emotional turbulence is feedback, not weakness. The strategist studies each result and adjusts accordingly, maintaining composure where others collapse. Over time, this practice builds an internal stillness, a calm power that no external chaos can disturb. When you command yourself, you command your world. The individual who has mastered their impulses, habits, and emotions becomes unshakable. They move through life with quiet authority, not because they control everything around them, but because nothing within them is out of control. Their power is precise, their precision powerful. They are architects of their own evolution, engineers of their own destiny. Strategic self-mastery is not the end of the journey. It is the control tower from which all higher forms of mastery take flight. Once you can govern yourself with clarity and discipline, every external endeavor, leadership, communication, influence, becomes an extension of that internal command. The world bends not to your force, but to your alignment. And from this alignment, your architecture of power and precision begins to rise with unwavering strength. Chapter 4. Communication as a precision tool. Communication is the architect's bridge between thought and action, between intention and perception. It is the mechanism by which ideas are transferred, influence is exerted, and alliances are forged. Without precision, communication becomes noise words scattered without alignment, signals lost in distortion. With precision, each word is a deliberate placement of stone in a structure designed to endure. To communicate with power, you must first strip away the excess. Every phrase should serve a function. Every sentence should move the listener closer to understanding or action. Vagueness dilutes authority. Clarity sharpens it. When your words carry exact meaning, they leave no space for misinterpretation and no refuge for doubt. Precision in speech is the ability to distill complexity into simplicity without sacrificing truth. Yet communication is not merely about speaking, it is about designing perception. The strategist understands that meaning is shaped as much by tone, rhythm, and timing as by the literal content. A pause can command more attention than a paragraph. A single, well-placed emphasis can shift an entire conversation's trajectory. Power in communication lies in the orchestration of these elements, aligning them with your intent so that every nuance supports your message. Listening is the silent half of precision. Most hear only to reply. Few listen to understand. Active listening transforms conversation into intelligence gathering. By observing not just words but pauses, hesitations, and subtle changes in tone, you uncover motivations and weaknesses that are invisible to the inattentive. Listening with purpose allows you to respond with accuracy, framing your words to meet the exact needs or vulnerabilities of your audience. Your body speaks before your mouth does. Posture, gestures, eye contact. These are architectural components of your message. If they contradict your words, your structure collapses. Alignment between verbal and nonverbal communication amplifies credibility. Misalignment erodes it instantly. Power demands that you control this physical architecture as deliberately as you control your vocabulary, ensuring that every movement reinforces rather than undermines your position. Precision also requires adaptability. No blueprint survives unchanged when conditions shift, and no message remains powerful if delivered without regard to context. The master communicator calibrates their language to the audience's level of knowledge, emotional state, and cultural frame of reference. This does not mean diluting truth, it means shaping its delivery so that it can be absorbed without resistance. Influence thrives in alignment, not confrontation. Emotion is both a tool and a threat to precision. Passion can make words memorable. Unchecked emotion can make them careless. The architect of communication channels, emotion strategically infusing conviction where it strengthens impact, withholding it where it might cloud clarity. The most persuasive voices are those that radiate controlled intensity, enough to inspire, never so much that they overwhelm. In high-stakes moments, every syllable carries weight. A single ambiguous word can fracture trust. An unnecessary detail can weaken momentum. To operate with precision under pressure, rehearse clarity until it becomes instinct. Know your key points before you speak. Anchor them in language that is simple yet unyielding, and deliver them with measured confidence. This preparation transforms communication from reactive improvisation into deliberate execution. Ultimately, communication is the transmission of architecture, the blueprint of your ideas rendered in sound, sight, and presence. When crafted with precision, it becomes more than an exchange of information. It becomes an act of construction. You shape perceptions as an engineer shapes structures, using clarity as your steel and alignment as your foundation. With each interaction designed deliberately, you do not merely participate in conversation, you direct its outcome. Chapter 5. Decision-Making Frameworks. Every decision you make is a structural beam in the architecture of your life. Some are visible career choices, relationships, investments, while others operate silently beneath the surface, shaping your direction without notice. Each decision either strengthens or weakens your foundation. The difference lies not in the volume of choices made, but in the framework through which they are executed. Power does not emerge from impulsive reaction. It is born from deliberate design. Precision ensures that design is sound. The undisciplined mind treats decisions as isolated events, moments of choice detached from the larger strategy. The architect sees them as interconnected nodes in a system of cause and effect. Every choice has structural implications. Each must align with the greater vision. The goal is not to make more decisions, but to make fewer, better ones. Those that conserve energy, eliminate ambiguity, and move the architecture forward with intent. Clarity begins with defining criteria. Most people make decisions based on transient emotion or external pressure. The strategist begins by establishing non-negotiables. What must be preserved, what can be sacrificed, and what outcome defines success. This creates a decision matrix, a grid of alignment between values, resources, and desired results. When each choice is filtered through this matrix, emotion becomes a data point, not a dictator. Information is the raw material of precision, yet too much of it paralyzes, too little distorts. The architect of decision-making learns to balance intuition with data. Intuition, refined by experience, detects patterns the analytical mind cannot articulate. Data anchors those instincts in evidence. The key is calibration. When intuition and information converge, decisions achieve both speed and accuracy. When they diverge, awareness, not haste, must determine which to trust. Every decision carries a cost, though not all are measured in currency. Time, energy, focus, and reputation are currencies equally vital. To decide effectively, One must calculate not only the benefits, but the true cost of pursuit. Many fail not because they choose poorly, but because they underestimate what the choice demands. Precision means accounting for these invisible expenditures before committing. Power lies in the ability to say no with conviction, preserving energy for choices that truly matter. In high-pressure environments, decision fatigue corrodes clarity. The strategist eliminates trivial choices by systematizing them, automating routines, delegating where possible, and reserving mental bandwidth for consequential decisions. This is not rigidity, it is conservation. Each unnecessary choice drains energy that could be directed toward strategy. Simplicity, when engineered deliberately, becomes a source of strength. But even the most refined framework must contend with uncertainty. No amount of planning can erase risk. The powerful do not seek perfect certainty, they seek to minimize regret. They weigh potential outcomes not by probability alone, but by the gravity of consequence. A low-probability event with catastrophic results demands caution. A moderate risk with limited downside invites boldness. Precision in decision-making is not avoidance of risk, it is mastery of proportion. When outcomes are unclear, the disciplined mind engages in scenario construction. By mentally simulating multiple outcomes, best case, worst case, most likely case, the strategist trains the mind to act with foresight. This practice reduces panic when reality diverges from expectation because the mind has already rehearsed adaptation. To think in scenarios is to build flexibility into the decision itself. It is the difference between a rigid plan and a resilient framework. Emotion often masquerades as logic in moments of choice. Fear disguises itself as caution. Desire dresses as opportunity. The mastery of decision-making is the ability to separate signal from sentiment. This requires distance, psychological and temporal. When emotion clouds perception, the strategist introduces space. Sleep on the decision, consult impartial perspectives, or delay action until clarity returns. Precision demands patience. Haste is the enemy of accuracy. The most effective decision-makers operate from principled heuristics, rules derived from reflection, not convenience. These heuristics act as internal algorithms that simplify complexity without sacrificing integrity. For example, always choose alignment over approval. Always prioritize systems over outcomes. Never sacrifice long-term stability for short-term gain. Such principles transform decision-making from improvisation into disciplined execution. Yet even with structure, not all decisions will succeed. Precision is not perfection. It is the ability to learn efficiently from imperfection. Each decision provides feedback, a map of what your current framework failed to account for. Review not only outcomes, but processes. Was the data incomplete? Was emotion disguised as logic? Was the time horizon too narrow? The strategist refines their framework with every iteration, treating error as evolution rather than failure. Over time, this refinement leads to a profound shift. Decisions cease to feel like gambles and begin to feel like engineering a sequence of calculations and calibrations guided by principle and awareness. You begin to trust your process more than your impulse. You act without hesitation, not because you are certain of success, but because your framework has made uncertainty manageable. The architecture of decision-making is the architecture of power itself. Every empire, company, or individual legacy has been determined less by resources than by the quality of its choices. Those who decide with precision shape the flow of events. Those who hesitate are shaped by them. To command your decisions is to command your direction. To refine the framework is to refine your fate. In the end, decision-making is not merely a cognitive act. It is a declaration of identity. Each choice reflects the architecture within you, your values, your discipline, your vision. The more deliberate that architecture becomes, the more inevitable your success. The architect of power does not wait for clarity. He creates it. He does not hope for the right path. He designs it. And through each precise decision, he constructs a life that stands as a monument to intention. Chapter 6. The Architecture of Influence. Influence is the subtle architecture of power in motion. It is the invisible force that guides decisions, shapes environments, and alters outcomes without overt command. Where power establishes capacity, influence determines direction. It is persuasion without pressure, control without coercion, leadership without demand. The true architect of influence does not bend others through dominance, but aligns them through design, constructing systems of trust, perception, and reciprocity that make compliance feel voluntary. Influence begins with presence. Before a word is spoken or a plan executed, others sense whether your energy is coherent or fragmented. Confidence that is quiet, grounded, and consistent generates gravity. People are drawn to stability in a world of noise. This gravity is not charisma, it is congruence. When your inner architecture is aligned, your actions, tone, and intent resonate as one. Others feel this integrity instinctively, and their defenses lower. Influence cannot exist where trust is absent, and trust is born from consistency between what is promised and what is delivered. To build this trust, reliability must precede persuasion. Influence is not established in moments of rhetoric, but in patterns of behavior. Each fulfilled commitment, each act of restraint, each demonstration of competence adds a beam to the structure. Over time, these beams form an unshakable reputation and architecture others rely on. When your word becomes a guarantee, your influence becomes exponential. People begin to act on your suggestions before you even make them, anticipating your standards and aligning themselves accordingly. Yet influence is never static. It adapts to context, adjusting its angles and proportions to the environment. The same approach that inspires loyalty in one setting may provoke resistance in another. The strategist studies the landscape before building, assessing motives, hierarchies, and unspoken dynamics. Influence thrives on precision, knowing whom to approach, when to act, and how to frame an idea so that it feels like the listener's own. The master influencer does not impose direction. They create conditions where others choose the direction you intended all along. Perception is the raw material of influence. What people believe about you shapes what they permit you to do. Therefore, the architect manages perception as deliberately as an engineer manages structure. This does not mean manipulation, it means clarity of signal. Every gesture, word, and silence communicates identity. The disciplined influencer curates this identity through controlled exposure, revealing enough to inspire confidence, withholding enough to maintain intrigue. Mystery exerts gravitational pull. Predictability breeds indifference. But perception alone is brittle without empathy. Influence collapses when it feels self-serving. The true strategist listens before leading, observes before advising. Empathy is not weakness, it is reconnaissance. By understanding the emotional architecture of others, their fears, desires, and insecurities, you gain access to the levers that move them. Speak to what people need to feel, not just to what they need to know. Influence operates not through logic alone, but through resonance, aligning your message to the emotional frequency of your audience while maintaining the integrity of your purpose. At its highest form, influence becomes orchestration. Each relationship, interaction, and alliance forms part of a larger design. The influencer acts as a conductor balancing tone, timing, and tempo, ensuring that each participant feels both autonomous and aligned. This is not deception, it is harmonization. Influence turns chaos into coordination, guiding collective energy toward a shared outcome that serves both personal and mutual goals. The more seamless this coordination, the more invisible your influence becomes and the more powerful it grows. To sustain influence, one must manage energy as carefully as relationships. Influence decays when overused. Constant persuasion breeds suspicion. Relentless presence dulls impact. The wise architect alternates between engagement and withdrawal, ensuring each appearance carries weight. Silence, when used strategically, amplifies authority. Distance reminds others of your value. The absence of force can create more pull than its constant application. Influence, like architecture, depends on tension between visibility and mystery, assertion and restraint. Ethical influence is not about control, but about creation. It is the ability to design environments where growth, clarity, and cooperation flourish naturally. When you use influence to elevate rather than exploit, it becomes self-reinforcing. Those you empower become extensions of your reach. They carry your principles forward, multiplying your effect without direct intervention. This is influence as legacy, a structure that endures because it was built on alignment, not domination. In every sphere, personal, professional, political, those who understand the architecture of influence shape the world quietly. They do not chase authority, they construct it. They do not demand loyalty, they cultivate it through integrity and precision. Their influence spreads not by force, but by design. And when the structure is complete, when every beam of trust and alignment holds firm, they need not command at all, the architecture speaks for them. Chapter 7. Precision in Action Planning. Action without precision is motion without progress. It expends energy, creates the illusion of momentum, yet leaves the architecture of your goals incomplete. Precision in action planning is the discipline of converting vision into execution with clarity so sharp that each movement serves a defined purpose. It is the translation of abstract ambition into concrete steps, measured outcomes, and deliberate timing. Every plan begins with a goal, but a goal without structural detail is only a wish. The architect of power dissects the goal into its smallest viable components, microtasks, that can be executed without ambiguity. These microtasks are the bricks from which the larger structure is built. When broken down to this level, action ceases to be overwhelming. It becomes a sequence of clear, achievable moves that collectively advance the plan. Milestones are the load-bearing points within this structure. They mark progress, create accountability, and provide psychological reinforcement. Each milestone should be measurable, unambiguous, and directly tied to the ultimate objective. Vague milestones invite drift. Precise ones act as coordinates, ensuring that every step is aligned with the intended trajectory. Power grows when you can see tangible proof of advancement. Precision ensures that proof is not illusory. Timing is the silent dimension of precise action planning. Even the most well-defined task loses potency if executed at the wrong moment. The strategist studies not only what must be done, but when it will have the greatest impact. This requires awareness of external conditions, market cycles, resource availability, emotional readiness, as well as internal rhythms of focus and energy. Acting too soon can squander resources. Acting too late can forfeit opportunity. Sequencing transforms isolated tasks into coordinated strategy. The order in which actions are executed determines efficiency and momentum. A precise plan considers dependencies, what must be completed before something else can begin, and arranges them to minimize delays and maximize compounding effects. This sequencing is not static. It adapts as conditions change, maintaining fluidity without abandoning structure. Review is the architect's inspection process. No plan remains flawless once it encounters reality. Precision demands a systematic method for evaluating progress. Are tasks being completed on time? Are milestones met with the desired quality? Is the sequence still optimal given new information? Review is not a formality, it is an active recalibration that ensures execution remains aligned with vision. Adaptation is where precision proves its resilience. A rigid plan fractures under pressure. A precise plan flexes without losing form. When obstacles emerge, the strategist does not abandon the blueprint. They adjust it, reassigning priorities and resources while keeping the ultimate objective intact. Precision in planning means designing with contingencies in mind, so that disruption becomes an expected variable rather than a fatal flaw. Energy management is often overlooked in action planning. Every task consumes focus, willpower, and emotional bandwidth. Precision accounts for this by distributing high-energy tasks during peak performance periods and reserving lower-intensity work for natural declines in energy. This maintains consistency while preventing burnout, ensuring that progress continues without sacrificing sustainability. Measurement is both validation and intelligence gathering. Each completed action should yield data not only about its success, but about how efficiently it was executed. This data feeds back into future planning, refining estimates of time, cost, and effort. Over time, Precision in measurement creates a feedback loop where each iteration of action planning becomes sharper and more effective than the last. Ultimately, precision in action planning turns ambition into inevitability. It removes reliance on willpower alone by embedding discipline into structure. Each task is intentional, each milestone inevitable, each adjustment calculated. The architect of power does not hope for results, they design them, step by deliberate step, until the vision stands complete in the world exactly as it was conceived in the mind. Chapter 8. Resilience and Adaptive Power. Resilience is the architecture of endurance, the capacity to remain standing when the ground shifts, to hold form when the winds of uncertainty batter against every wall you have built. It is not mere survival. It is the deliberate preservation of strength and precision in the face of disruption. Where others see setback as collapse, the resilient see it as recalibration, an opportunity to examine the integrity of their structure and adapt it for greater stability. True resilience is proactive, not reactive. It is forged before the crisis arrives, in the quiet discipline of preparation. This preparation is not paranoia, it is foresight. It means building redundancy into your plans, cultivating mental flexibility, and rehearsing adaptation so that when change comes, it meets a mind already trained to pivot without panic. The architect of adaptive power does not cling to a single design. They create frameworks capable of evolving without losing their essence. Adaptation is the strategic twin of resilience. Resilience allows you to withstand impact. Adaptation allows you to transform that impact into momentum. To adapt with power is to recognize when a course has become obsolete and to redirect energy without abandoning purpose. This requires ruthless clarity, distinguishing between the core vision that must remain intact and the methods that can be replaced. Those who lack this distinction either refuse change until they break or abandon their aim entirely in search of comfort. Failure becomes fuel when reframed as feedback. Each misstep is an inspection report revealing weaknesses in your architecture that success would have left hidden. The resilient do not deny the existence of cracks, they catalog them, analyze them, and reinforce those sections until they are stronger than before. Precision ensures that this reinforcement is targeted. Power ensures that it is decisive. Together, they turn every setback into an upgrade. Mental resilience begins with emotional command under pressure. Chaos tempts the mind into reaction. Anger, fear, despair. But these are unrefined energies that scatter precision. The adaptive strategist channels them into constructive force. Fear sharpens observation. Frustration amplifies focus. Uncertainty invites creative problem-solving. By refusing to let emotion dictate action, you preserve the clarity needed to design your next move. Resilience also thrives on perspective. Those who believe they have reached a final form will shatter when reality demands change. Those who see themselves as evolving structures will adapt without loss of identity. Every challenge becomes part of the architecture's history, a structural layer that adds depth and character. The resilient do not seek to erase hardship. They integrate it into their design so that their presence carries the weight of experience. In practice, adaptive power demands systems that support flexibility, decision-making frameworks that account for shifting variables, action plans with built-in contingencies, and relationships cultivated with mutual trust so collaboration remains strong under strain. These systems act as shock absorbers for the architecture of your life, ensuring that external volatility does not fracture internal stability. Maintaining resilience over time requires energy conservation. Power dissipates when constantly spent on resistance alone. It must also be invested in renewal. This means deliberate recovery, restoring mental clarity, physical vitality, and emotional balance so that adaptation remains sharp rather than desperate. The strategist understands that resilience without renewal becomes brittle, and brittleness invites collapse. When both resilience and adaptive power are mastered, you move through uncertainty with quiet authority. Disruption ceases to be a threat. It becomes raw material for innovation. You stand unshaken not because storms do not strike you, but because each one reinforces your foundation and sharpens your design. In this way, the architecture you build is not just strong, it is alive, growing stronger with every challenge it encounters. Chapter 9. Sustaining Long-Term Mastery. Mastery is not an event, it is a continuum. It does not end at achievement, it evolves through sustained refinement. To sustain mastery is to remain a student long after others have declared themselves experts. It requires the humility to recognize that what is complete today will be obsolete tomorrow, and the discipline to evolve before necessity forces change. The architecture of long-term mastery is built not on victory, but on vigilance. The greatest threat to mastery is comfort. Success breeds familiarity, and familiarity dulls precision. When the architect begins to trust the structure so completely that inspection ceases, decay begins unnoticed. Sustained mastery demands perpetual awareness, a willingness to question what works, to audit systems that seem flawless, and to dismantle perfection before it becomes stagnation. Growth is not the accumulation of more, but the refinement of what already exists. Consistency is the engine of endurance. Mastery is maintained through rhythm, not bursts of brilliance. The disciplined repetition of deliberate practice keeps skills sharp and instincts aligned. Those who sustain greatness do so not by chasing novelty, but by mastering fundamentals until they become second nature. The daily rituals that built your foundation must never be abandoned. They are the maintenance routines of excellence. Precision fades when practice ceases, yet consistency must coexist with curiosity. Sustaining mastery requires the courage to explore beyond known boundaries, to experiment without abandoning discipline. Curiosity keeps the architect's mind alive, questioning assumptions, testing new materials, exploring alternate designs. Without it, mastery calcifies into arrogance. The masters of longevity are those who balance devotion to principle with openness to innovation, treating each new challenge as an opportunity to expand their blueprint. Reflection transforms experience into wisdom. Every cycle of action, success, and failure provides data for refinement. To sustain mastery, you must institutionalize reflection regular intervals where you step back from execution to evaluate alignment. Are your actions still serving your highest vision? Have your goals evolved while your methods remain static? Reflection is the recalibration that ensures your architecture remains relevant in a changing landscape. Adaptability is the guardian of mastery. Environments shift, tools evolve, audiences transform. The strategies that once ensured dominance can become liabilities if left unexamined. Sustained power lies in flexibility, the ability to evolve systems without losing their essence. This means cultivating a mindset that favors evolution over preservation, recognizing that mastery is not a monument, but a living structure that breathes with time. To sustain mastery over decades, energy management becomes non-negotiable. Power dissipates when endlessly exerted. Precision dulls when stretched beyond recovery. Renewal is not indulgence, it is maintenance. Rest, solitude, and deliberate detachment preserve clarity and focus. The architect who never leaves the site eventually loses perspective. Stepping away allows you to return with sharper vision and restored power. The ecosystem surrounding you also determines sustainability. Isolation breeds blindness. Collaboration multiplies intelligence. Surround yourself with minds that challenge rather than echo you, those who question your assumptions and push your boundaries. True masters design environments that demand their growth. Mentors who provoke reflection. Apprentices who require articulation. Peers who compete with integrity. Sustained mastery thrives in dynamic tension. Purpose must remain the North Star of persistence. Without purpose, even mastery decays into mechanical repetition. Reconnect regularly with the reason you began to build, to learn, to serve, to transcend limitation. Purpose transforms effort into devotion, ensuring that each act of refinement carries meaning beyond performance. When purpose fades, fatigue follows. When it is renewed, endurance becomes natural. Self-awareness anchors longevity. As you evolve, so too do your strengths, priorities, and limitations. Sustaining mastery means adapting your systems to match your current capacity rather than clinging to outdated versions of yourself. Recognize when ambition must yield to wisdom, when efficiency replaces intensity, when teaching becomes the next frontier of learning. The master who sustains power understands that evolution is not decline, it is transcendence. Ultimately, long-term mastery is sustained through alignment between vision and action, effort and renewal, ambition and humility. It is the art of remaining both grounded and ascending, rooted yet reaching. Each day becomes a microcosm of the entire journey. Deliberate practice balanced by reflection, precision tempered by adaptability, power renewed through rest. The architecture of mastery never truly ends. It only deepens. Each refinement strengthens the foundation. Each adaptation expands the design. The one who sustains mastery does not chase permanence, they build resilience into impermanence itself. And in doing so, they achieve what few ever do. Not fleeting greatness, but enduring command power expressed with timeless precision. Conclusion. Power and precision are not destinations, they are disciplines. Throughout this journey, you have learned that they do not exist as abstract ideals, but as living architectures that shape every thought, decision, and action. Power begins within, the command of the self, the stillness beneath chaos, the deliberate choice to act rather than react. Precision refines that command into art, transforming energy into structure, intention into measurable impact. Together, they form the design through which mastery is not only achieved, but sustained. Every principle in this book has led you toward a singular truth, that life itself is a construction. Your beliefs are the foundation, your habits, the framework, your words, the materials, and your decisions, the design. Whether your architecture rises strong or collapses under pressure depends entirely on the clarity with which you build. The undisciplined scatter their efforts, mistaking motion for progress. The architect moves with intention, shaping every element to serve a purpose. There is genius in that restraint, and freedom in that structure. Power without self-mastery is noise. Precision without conviction is fragility. But when power is guided by precision, and precision fueled by power, you become more than a participant in your environment. You become its designer. You no longer chase outcomes, you construct them. You no longer hope for influence, you engineer it. You cease to be at the mercy of circumstance because your architecture is self-sustaining, capable of withstanding uncertainty and adapting without losing integrity. The path of mastery does not end with understanding these concepts, it begins with living them. Each moment offers a test of your architecture, a conversation that measures your communication, a decision that reveals your clarity, a setback that challenges your resilience. In every test lies an opportunity to refine. To operate with precision is to treat each moment as a chance to improve alignment between who you are and what you intend to build. Remember that mastery is not built in grand gestures, but in deliberate repetitions. It is the quiet discipline of daily awareness, the way you speak, act, and think when no one is watching. Over time, these small acts compound into unshakable power. They become the invisible framework of your identity, the silent geometry of your influence. You are not meant to imitate the powerful, you are meant to architect your own form of power, one that reflects your values, your purpose, and your unique design. The world does not need louder voices, it needs more deliberate ones. Those who move with precision will always outlast those who move with haste. Carry this architecture forward. Continue refining it, testing it, strengthening it. Let every challenge become a blueprint revision, every success a structural reinforcement. Build yourself into a presence that does not demand attention but commands respect through clarity, discipline, and unshakable composure. When you have mastered this balance, when your power moves silently and your precision strikes without waste, you will no longer be merely building structures. You will be building legacies. And in that moment, your architecture will no longer belong only to you. It will become a pattern that others follow, a design that endures beyond your lifetime. The architecture of power and precision is now yours to construct. Build it wisely, build it deliberately, and let every action be a testament to your mastery.